Hello everybody, and welcome to an exploration of the cost of Marvel's most obscure omnibuses. What are they? Are they expensive? Have they gotten less expensive over the years? I don't know, but we're about to find out, and you are going to get to participate in that investigation process. Don't adjust your screens unless they need adjustment, because it is I, Crisis. You're having a crisis. I'm coming to you live from a frankly beautiful morning here in New Zealand. It is Monday here, but Sunday for many of you. And today we're following up on a recent video on the channel where I went through Marvel Fantasy Draft. Did you see that one? It was a pretty good one. A lot of people really liked it. And as part of that fantasy draft, I kind of graded each one of Marvel's omnibuses in terms of obscurity, because we're trying to figure out, does Marvel tend to release all bangers, no bangers, somewhere in the middle? As a result of that, I have this list of what we deemed during that discussion Marvel's most obscure omnibuses, and it really made me think, what happens to an obscure omnibus? What happens to an obscure omnibus from 20 years ago? The omnibus program has been around for 20 years. What happens to an obscure omnibus from just a few years ago? And how do they compare to each other in terms of availability and cost? So this is kind of a new thing. We try new things on the channel sometimes. And, you know, if you all really like it, then there could be a lot more like this. But, you know, I'm not really one to look at the prices of like individual keys of comic books. And so that's really never going to be what we do here. But inspired by some of the things some of my friends on the internet have done, I thought, let's take my perspective on how much these things cost and how much people pay for them. I'm going to just do some quick looks, and then we're going to be straight into the content. Last night, Jade Rabbit 2099 was the first one to comment asking if I could do a Krakoa retrospective stream. That stream may eventually happen, but I will tell you there is going to be an X-Men stream next week, 1 hour earlier than this time, with my very esteemed colleague, One Wheelchair X, and we are going to rank every major X-Men event storyline ever. So please mark your calendars. We had Edwin Billiot nice and early saying he cannot wait for this stream. I hope it meets your expectations. Superchop saying, can we invent some kind of like game to make this even more fun? Reading my mind with a brain that increasingly is a small number of brain cells that we share that have not been spent on reading Zenoscope comics, because that is exactly the direction we are going to be taking this in. Reaper XC was ready and waiting quite early this morning, as was Super Panda. Mall 360 is here, who saw an astonishing X-Men omnibus in the wild for $150 at half-price books, which implies the full price is $300? I don't know about that. Cool Angel is here, and another fan of half-price books. Gunnar Pauls is it says that I'm turning from a comic book reader to a spreadsheet demon. I've been a spreadsheet demon the whole time. That's my secret. Isn't that, there's a Lady Gaga song, I'm gonna be a full-time spreadsheet demon. Just like that. Cedric and Ellen is here wishing I could have a whole stream focused on the Defenders, but who would watch that stream? Possibly just me and Cedric and Ellen, but that makes 3, which is the magic number. Valned with their famous ellipses. Let's see if there's anyone else to say hello to, and then we're going to get in. Max saying, I'm here to swim in the delightful pool of my wisdom and charm. Also, lightning. Whoa, where did those lightning effects come from? That's never happened before. Okay, let's see. Logan Wayne, Jamie C., $47.99. Body by Leafield, which brings us, I think I usually do it in the wrong direction. I think I usually go this way, but I'm supposed to go this way, maybe? Hold on, I might have to turn it off. That's just terrifying. I'll provide some early data. The Fear Omni, which was in the thumbnail, and Amazing Fantasy, which were in the thumbnail, were both at Hamilton last year, which is one of these discount sellers. What will that do for their prices? Jade Rabbit wondering what the next Krakoa Omnibus might be. Let me remind you, for those of you who are watching live, directly at the end of this, we go to an after party stream. If you've hit reload since it started, the URL should be in the description. If you don't see it, please let me know. And that will just start like 2 minutes after this ends. The time that it currently says is a lie. But the point being, I'm not going to really talk about anything off topic here past saying hello to everybody. And so if you have those kinds of questions for me, we will hang out in the after party and talk about all of those things. I see great questions here about things. Nick N saying hello to the Crushers. One Wheelchair X, who I just did a video and mic check with just a moment ago. And Ryan Williams is here, knock, knock, knocking on wood, as the classic disco song goes. Saz Murph saying hello, and Lance the Library saying good afternoon to Crisis and the Crushers, who had a crisis at the start of the week. Oh no, and I mean, other than me, I'm assuming because you spelled it with a C. Okay, and LOCD Daria is here, and I think Patrick and Kia ora to, oh my gosh, Samantha. I don't see my new NZ Hawk that I usually see here. Maybe he is busy this morning. Danny P, we always love welcoming people who are catching alive for the first time. My X-Men talk got me reading X-Men again. I'm sorry, or congratulations, I don't know which. We will be talking again X-Men next week. Dummy Spider is here. James Rhodes is here. And Peter DeLuca. How do we get into the after stream? There should be no notifications for it. It is an unlisted video. The only way to go to the after stream is if you see the URL in this description while this video is live, and then some distance after that, it goes as a link on Crushing Crisis just for patrons. And Richard Fearing saying hello, as well as Zerto, who I think was maybe the first time caller last week. I don't know. Okay. Oh my gosh. And Tiago. Everybody's rolling in. This is what happens when I start 5 minutes earlier than usual. Keep you on your toes. Okay. Let's dig in, because we have so much to talk about with this today. Oh, that's not what we're looking for. There we go. So we're doing a price check on how much Marvel's obscure omnibuses cost, and which a lot of you are already asking the question, what is obscure in this frame of reference? So let's get into that a little bit, and then let's talk about these omnibuses. So this is something you saw from me a couple of weeks ago when we did the Marvel Fantasy Omnibus Draft. The idea of what do we know about Marvel's omnibus release strategy? And you can see it there on the left, year by year, to see how their output has increased from 1 all the way in the first year to 65 books announced for this year. I mean, it has just gone up and up. Is that going to maintain its upward trend next year? It's not always up. You can see there's some raises, some dips along the way. But at the point that you're releasing 65 omnibuses, are all of them great? Are all of them non-obscure? Are all of them hits? Are all of them, as we like to say here on the channel in an homage to Miley Cyrus, bangers? The answer is no. And it's always been no. It's not like it just changed when they started putting 60 omnibuses out a year. It's never been all bangers. Even if we go back to the years that have 4 or 8 or 7, those years, there was still 1 or 2 pretty obscure omnibuses. And so I wanted to find a way to quantify that, because I feel like it was just my gut to begin with. And so I was like, well, how do we put words to this idea of there's obscure omnibuses on the schedule? And what I did was I went through and gave them all grade 1 to 5. 5 is like things that we all expect to be evergreen, things that immediately the demand goes up. The Astonishing X-Men's, the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1s, the Jason Aaron Thors, the books where they're always hot in the market. No matter how much they are printed, they will always kind of sell and move. Things that were kind of 3 in the middle tended to be things that like maybe got a reprint, maybe didn't. A lot of Marvel Masterworks-based omnibuses. And then the 1s and the 2s are things that just were kind of niche. We figured this out last week. Niche. The things that were kind of niche. Not that nobody's interested in them. Every comic book is somebody's favorite, but they're things that I recall selling more slowly, or things that were on the aftermarket for a long time, or just properties that really have no true name recognition. So it would be really hard for them to be evergreen. Everybody demands it because people don't really know and like it as much. So now we're going to get into those. I just want to look at a few comments first. Ryan, the link is not on the Patreon. The link, unless I truly screwed up, and there's always that chance, should be in the description of this video. And that is the link for the after party. Yes, I've just confirmed it is in the link for this video. So if you have not reloaded this video recently, that would be why you have not seen the link. So the link to the after party is there, and the after party starts 2 minutes. I'm checking the link just to make sure it's valid. It is totally valid. There are already people chatting there, so I can tell you that is working for sure. Okay. Puddin' Tame, hello. Someone online the other day was asking whether the Masters of Suspense Omnis even existed because he couldn't find them anywhere. I guess that would make them count as obscure. Well, obscure is like a two-sided coin, right? Because it's obscure when they first come out, and it's like a lot of superhero readers are like, Masters of Suspense, what's that? And then they become obscure in a totally different way when there's none for sale. There is one that we're looking at today where there was literally only one completed auction on eBay for months. So some of them kind of become obscure in that way. Niche. And Cody Collects. I had major FOMO this weekend because Cody Collects and Dom did a crossover where they each presented half of their DC Tigerized Most Wanted Omnibus list on each other's channel. It's like, when do I get to hang out with Cody? So if you haven't seen that, please go subscribe to Cody Collects. Please go check out Dom of X's channel, which I'm sure many of you subscribe to. And if you haven't voted yet, by the time we're done talking today, the voting window will have, I think, closed. It's closing at 9 p.m. this evening for the DC Most Wanted Omnibus poll. Let me tell you, it is tight. I had to look at the results today so I could start preparing the slides. There is a magic ballot that you could cast that would create a 5-way tie at number 60, which is incredible. Okay, here we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start with some of the oldest obscure omnibuses, and we're going to go year by year to look at them. And oh, you know what? There's an animation on this, and I don't know. Oh, see, on actual Google Slides, okay, we might have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Because on actual Google Slides, those costs are hidden because we're going to play a game. So let me just, not everything can go super smoothly the first time. Let's try something different here. Oh, Jesus. Oh, good Lord. Okay. Okay, we're just going to try a brief alternate approach here. I did not think through that the animations would not work. Hey. There we go. Oh, no, but is it cut off? No. Okay. This might work. This might work. No, that's not working. Not working at all, actually. Add to the stage. That's just two things that are not working. Add to the... Oh, but it's so small. This drives me crazy. All right, give me a moment. We all know, I could edit these and then see, but now you can see the prices again. Oh, good Lord. All right, well... You work so hard and you try so hard, and then things just do not do the thing that you wanted them to do. I guess we're going to go with this. Okay, well, you've already seen the answer now, but we can just use this by way of explanation. So, Devil Dinosaur by Jack Kirby was released in 2007. Now, it's not that obscure. It's Devil Dinosaur. It's by Jack Kirby. It's also the shortest Marvel Omnibus ever, I think, or at least it had been for a long, long, long time, because Devil Dinosaur really has not made all that many appearances. It has never been reprinted. There has been a trade paperback collection, which I think I actually have right off camera somewhere here, but it's never been reprinted in Omnibus. Some people occasionally ask for it, but it's just such a slim book. It's almost like this is why DC has deluxes, right? As opposed to something printed literally the same week, which was Fantastic Four Volume 2, which was a really big deal. Fantastic Four Volume 1 was the first proper Marvel Omnibus. Of course, there was the Barnes & Noble version of Ultimate Spider-Man. That's been reprinted twice, in 2013 and 2021, which means it hasn't been reprinted for 6 years. Of course, Devil Dinosaur hasn't been reprinted for going on 20 years. So the way that we'll be doing in the future slides is I'm going to ask you, what do you think the highest price Devil Dinosaur has sold for in the last 90 days? And then you're all going to guess, and then I'm going to reveal it. And there is the reveal. Oh, what is that? Oh, okay. Okay, here we go. There we go. And so in this case, Devil Dinosaur has actually sold for over $100. Now, again, this is a 19-year-old book, so if somebody really wants it, they might occasionally pay a premium. But for a 19-year-old book, people are still only paying under $100, $70. Somebody got it on an eBay sale, and these are US dollars, not New Zealand dollars. As opposed to Fantastic Four Volume 2. Now, it has been reprinted twice, but it's still a pretty in-demand book, and its lowest amount that it has sold for on eBay recently is still $100, full cover price, and it has sold for up to $259. These are not just completed listings. These are listings that actually have been sold. Now, One Wheelchair X points out that Devil Dinosaur is the newest Marvel Rivals character, so reprint incoming, or honestly, is that price just about to go up? I checked these prices for this slide before the announcement video went out. So there is a chance that already Devil Dinosaur Omnibus prices are skyrocketing. Dummy Spider would buy a Devil Dino reprint. With ones this old, you have to wonder, well, is there a way to expand it? They expanded the Eternals omnibus, which was old, and they made it a much bigger, much cooler omnibus. Devil Dinosaur just does not have that much else material. Like, he's appeared like 4 more times before the year 2000. So, and you could put them in, but there's really nowhere else to go with that omnibus. Okay, so now let us move down to the next one. We're still in 2007. Amazing Fantasy. What is it? It's an omnibus. You know, Amazing Fantasy 15. We've all seen it. Spider-Man swinging. It's his first appearance. Well, that was issue 15. There were 14 issues prior to that, all with Amazing Fantasies in them as well, that never caught on to the level of Spider-Man. So this is a kind of classic early Silver Age Marvel omnibus, but because the rest of the stuff in it does not have the pedigree of Spider-Man, it's pretty obscure. I mean, I would challenge all of you on here, and I know one of you smartasses will know. Can any of you name a single other character or story that happened in the first 14 issues of Amazing Fantasy? Probably not. However, it was reprinted, which was wild to me. I did not expect that. It was reprinted in 2020. I guess Marvel is like, well, it's part of our history. Maybe people might be interested in it. Also, was that around the time that Marvel was reprinting some of their Golden Age, like the Golden Age Volume 1? Maybe they were just like, it's been long enough. And maybe they learned their lesson because it did not sell. So on the other side, we have Daredevil by Frank Miller Companion. It was originally released just 3 months later in December of 2007. It has been reprinted twice, in 2016 and 2024. So that is pretty recent. Those reprinted are only 2 years old. How out of stock could it be? So I'm looking for some guesses here. I will start to show them on the screen. I want to see who can guess the highest price Amazing Fantasy is sold for without going over, and I want you to tell me which will have a higher price, Amazing Fantasy or Daredevil, and you can just do AF or DD. So let's get those votes in. Meanwhile, some people are trying to name things that appeared in Amazing Fantasy, saying, was it Groot? Or perhaps an early version of Groot named Grout, who's made out of the stuff that goes between your bathroom tiles. One Wheelchair X thinks Daredevil is going to be the highest price. Zerta says Daredevil. Everybody says Daredevil's higher. Jamie C thinks 190 for the highest price for Amazing Fantasy. And Nick N saying only 60. And let's see, Ryan Williams saying 100 for Amazing Fantasy. Some people think Amazing Fantasy is going to be higher. James Rode thinks Amazing Fantasy is going to be higher. So does Jade Rabbit. So it's a pretty, I think the Daredevils are ahead. This is the highest wager for Amazing Fantasy, 250. Let us see where that comes out. Oh, you were all way too high. The most Amazing Fantasy has sold for in the last 90 days is only 66 American dollars. Let's see, do we have a winner? Nick N, who was sure that it would only sell for 60, came in Price is Right rules, the closest without going over, and was sure that Daredevil would be higher. Wildly, you could almost literally get 2 Amazing Fantasy omnibuses for the price of the minimum price that the Daredevil by Frank Miller Companion went for. Okay, Daredevil surely higher, 200 to 70. Yeah, that Daredevil book, I mean, to me that's wild because you know me, I'm a completionist. I don't want that Daredevil book. Like, it's just a bunch of random nonsense. Not really. I mean, it's the stuff that goes with Miller's run. And if you love Miller, you would want that book. But to me, it doesn't have, it's like, I would just rather wait for the 2 Daredevil omnibuses that come after the Miller omnibus to have all of the stuff that that is written that goes after that. So all the way through Born Again. So to me, it's just one of those books that I would never buy. But that's because I don't tend to buy those like greatest hitsy kind of puzzled together books. Lance saying hardly anyone I know in the community cares about that Amazing Fantasy omnibus. Like, even me, who loves all archival things. And I think it's cool that they put it in one omnibus rather than carve it up between different creators. Even for 20 bucks, I mean 20, if I was somewhere physically and I saw it for $20, I would buy it. So I guess that's the other question. Once I reveal the prices, would you buy it for $66? I know I wouldn't, but I would definitely pay 20. Sesmer saying the DD compilation does have Man Without Fear. That is true. and pretty much has all of Miller's other Daredevil work except for the stuff in the Elektra Assassin book. All right, let's continue. You kind of get the theme now, and there's 18 more. I did 20. So we're going to, it's not only a game show though, we're going to try to explore like what gains notoriety and value over time and what doesn't. With Amazing Fantasy, would it be that low had they not reprinted it? I think that part of the problem here is there was a more modern reprint with more modern reprint numbers, and it's just not a big mover. And so now all those reprint copies are kind of sitting on the market. Okay. Next, we have a book that I love, and I will take no mockery of this book. It is Women of Marvel, celebrating 7 decades. It was originally released the 5th of January, 2011. So we're jumping a little bit forward. There were just no juicy, never reprinted niche books in 2008 through 10 that had a good comparison book. This is a great comparison book because 2 months later, Thor by Walter Simonson was released. Thor by Walter Simonson, released on the 16th of March, 2011. This is the recolored omnibus. It has been released twice, 2017 and 2024. And I want to say there was also like a restock at some point as well. So this is a book with a lot of copies on the market. There's never been more copies of Women of Marvel. It's for 15 years now. I love the Women of Marvel book. I wish I had brought it up to have near my screen so I could show it off. It's basically like a lot of small undercollected stuff from the 70s that at the time had no chance of being an omnibus. I think it is the original Tigra as the Cat issues. It has like the first appearance of Miss Marvel. Who knew that we were ever going to get a Miss Marvel omnibus? And then it has some key Women of Marvel kind of storylines and single stuff that maybe has been in omnibuses later. But for a greatest hits read that's themed around something, so often the greatest hits reads are like just a creator, but it's like, well, if you don't, I'm more of a character person than a creator person. So I'm like, oh, it's all the work of Chris Claremont. Okay, great. But I like Chris Claremont's X-Men, and this is like Chris Claremont writing Man-Thing. I don't care. So to me, I actually really like that Marvel. Okay, but the guess is already coming in. You have really figured this out pretty quickly. So James Rhodes saying Women of Marvel 35, Thor 150. And also it kind of works that the screen is smaller for the share because we can see your guesses right under the eBay price. We're going to pretend that I did that on purpose. Okay. Sesmer saying Thor's going to be higher, 175 for Thor versus 80. I'm assuming Women of Marvel, Jade Rabbit says top price from 20. Remember, we're talking about the top price that somebody was willing to pay. Let's see. Thor higher, 300 to 55, Richard says. Everybody thinks Thor is going to be higher. Thor way higher. Cruel Angel says 250. Women of Marvel at 50. A lot of women at Marvel at 50. Zertai says it might reach 100 plus. Ryan Williams says 50. Tiago says 40 to 150. One Wheelchair says 200 for Thor, 100 for Women of Marvel. Has anybody said more than 100 for Women of Marvel? Jade said 120. So if it is over 100 and less than 120, oh, but Nick N says 160, the top amount for Women of Marvel. Okay, wow, so many guesses. Let's see the answer. Women of Marvel, the lowest price was 119. The highest price was 185. I do believe that means our winner is Nick N with 160, and he guessed Thor, that's not whether you win or not. The Thor thought it would be 100. And Thor, as you can see here, the range of the Thor book is quite reasonable. You can get the Thor book still for undercover price. And again, there are 3 printings. So the Women of Marvel has a higher low price and a higher high price than the Thor book. So this is actually a big reason why I wanted to do this stream. And look, I'm not shopping for these things anymore. I kind of have the omnibuses that I want. So somebody who's really in the game, you see all these posts on Reddit every week, like, I just started collecting a minute ago, and they have this shelf. It's like, what were you doing in that minute? Did you like ram a truck into the Penguin Random House distribution warehouse and just throw everything in? Was that your first minute of collecting? How did that take a minute? But for me, who's out of the game, like, I don't see this. Some of you might be a little bit more active in the game seeing this, but at the same time, many of you just said you didn't even know the Women of Marvel book existed. So to me, that's an obscure book. I mean, it's not about any one thing. It was a low seller at the time. It was discounted forever. I think I got my copy for like $25, quite honestly. And I would have paid more because I love all those characters. And it's and it kind of was like one of these celebrating a year, like it must have been like, let's see, 2011. So that was 50 years, right? From 1961 to 2011. So it was like 7 decades, I guess. I mean, 7? No, that doesn't make sense to me. I guess they're going from 1941 to 2011. Maybe it's the first time a woman had ever been in a Marvel comic book. I don't know. Point being that those anniversary books, in my opinion, are like quite ephemeral. Like they just exist in that moment and then they just fly away. And so I think that's pretty niche. It's something that only made sense at the time. There's no like big seller to it. I don't have it next to me. Maybe for the after show, I could like run downstairs to the other shelves and grab it and bring it back, but I'm almost certain it is not in this room. But the Thor book, Ryan points out, was going for like $50 on Amazon after the recent printing. So there is a little bit of a supply and demand happening. I don't think that makes this Women of Marvel book not obscure, but I guess the point I'm making is an obscure book that obscure from the perspective of sales potential or interest can actually still sell for more than the hottest books. And we're going to see some very hot books on this poll that have a top price under $185. That is almost 2 times cover price. And I don't think they're ever going to reprint that Women of Marvel book because there is no reason to reprint that Women of Marvel book because many of the things in it have already been collected better elsewhere, especially because of the Epic collections, which didn't even exist at that point. And I mean, I agree, Nick. I love that book. It is one of my favorite omnibuses. Max saying, my neighbor Omar left his door unlocked and I just started collecting. Surprise haul video. Well, that's kind of what happened with the people who stole all the books from Riley, omnibus collector Riley's storage container. There was like an inside job. Somebody broke into his storage container, stole some books. He found that some had been stolen, and then he went back later and more had been stolen, which is crazy. So yeah, now I looked at all of eBay's global listings, but I only looked at completed listings. Now, I've talked recently about how I try to build a little bit every time I do a stream of like, ooh, what can we do now with this data that we have? And now that I have all the Marvel Omnibus data, I'm like, oh, what I can start doing is I can build the ideal eBay search string for all of that data. And I think actually Thor might be an interesting one to jump over to eBay for a second. So you have to really learn the right way to do these eBay search strings. And now recently, 169, there it is. So in this case, you have to remember on eBay that you can put things in parentheses and that creates an or situation. So some people might write Walt, somebody might write Simonson. I probably should have put Walter Simonson in there. And so for every book, I've been trying to create the perfect eBay search string so that then I have a perfect list of every omnibus ever released, all with their search strings. So I have those here. And if anybody's wondering or if any of these books are books that people are hunting for, we can go take a look at the perfect string. This one is pretty easy because they're all Women of Marvel. We will get to ones later that are much more complicated than that. And you will see the difference. Okay, what did I do to this window? There we go. Okay, let us move on to the next one. Yeah, one wheelchair. I will teach you all the ways of eBay. eBay has ORed, and you can't nest ORs, but you can have multiple ORs. And you also can have negative terms, and you can have ORs within your negative terms. So a lot of people who are looking for things on eBay are like looking for the perfectly named version of that omnibus, and they're never going to find it because it's like people put it up subtly with a different name and you will never get it. There are DM covers that go for a lot more than standard. In one case on here, there was a DM cover that was such an outlier. It was like, it sold for like $700 that I was like, we're not counting that. That's a fluke. Somebody was just insanely trying to collect DM covers, and that is not great. ISBN does work well for eBay searches if somebody put the ISBN of the book in, or if eBay's search software detected that it was a book and had an ISBN. So often it's good if you're doing a saved search for an omnibus you're after to do one search that has all of the ORed terms in it, and we will keep looking at them because it seems like you're all really interested, and then a separate search with the ISBN. Usually the omnibus search itself will be too complex with too much nested logic to just OR the whole search with it. But for like Women of Marvel, you could have just done an OR that was open parentheses, Women of Marvel, comma, the ISBN, close parentheses, and that would be an ORed search for Women of Marvel or the ISBN. But there are Women of Marvel things that are not the omnibus, right? There's Women of Marvel posters, Women of Marvel trade paperbacks. So that would not necessarily be super useful. Okay, you all totally get how the game works now. Let's continue to the next one. So here's another one of these anniversary books. We're jumping forward to 2014. This is Marvel 75th Anniversary, originally released in 2014. Amazing cover. I mean, just such a cool cover. Never reprinted. I love that little golden Marvel logo on it. And I think for the people who are on Reddit who are like, where do I start? I don't understand. What have I begun? What should I begin with? Like, that would actually be a good book to refer them to get kind of the best of like the Silver Age and the Bronze Age and the 80s, right? And it does have stuff all the way up to when it was printed. However, that was released November 2014. Just 4 months earlier, there was the Infinity Gauntlet Omnibus. That was a big deal because we had event omnibuses before then. We had like Atlantis Attacks, but it was a big deal because it was a huge event. and it was something that had only been in paperback, and it had every tie-in. I'm trying to think at that time if Marvel had ever done anything like that. Even Acts of Vengeance had been 2 omnibuses. They used to do it in a main omnibus, Acts of Vengeance, and then a second omnibus, the crossovers. They did the same thing with Inferno. There was an Inferno oversized hardcover and then Inferno crossovers. So that was a big deal. Now, Infinity Gauntlet was reprinted in 2020, still 6 years ago, and it's like the Thanos story. It has one of the most iconic covers in Marvel history. It's pretty popular, and this other book is pretty niche. So let's see. So we're looking for, now you have to be careful because when you say it like this, Jamie C, I don't know which one you're saying is 160, so I won't be able to credit you. I'm looking for who's going to be the winner, and the second number I'm going to take is your guess for how high the obscure book was. So I'm reading this as Infinity Gauntlet will win, but Marvel 75th will go up to 160. Zerta says 75th anniversary will win and will be 300. Please don't cheat, by the way, because that takes all the fun out. Not that I'm accusing you. I'm just saying, like, this is public information. Anniversary for 80, Infinity Gauntlet for 120. That's probably the best format. Infinity Gauntlet no more than 100, says Zerta. Nick thinks Gauntlet for 175. People are going high in the 75th. 75th 60, Gauntlet 200. Jade thinks Gauntlet 250. 75th 100. 75th 180. 75th 150. 140. Y'all think this, I don't know. I truly don't remember. I have the brain power of a goldfish, and I did this 3 days ago, so I wouldn't be running around like crazy yesterday. Let's see who wins. Well, we got to look for a really no number, because the highest price the 75th anniversary book has gone for has been $50. So even Cruel Angel at 60 was over. And did anybody guess less than 60? Not a single person. No one got that the Marvel 75th anniversary book can be had, if you set up your email search or your eBay search right now, can be had for $50 or less. Meanwhile, Gauntlet, people were wilding on Gauntlet, and I think Gracie Patrick might have gotten the closest with one of my favorite illustrations of Captain America ever, although I believe on the original cover he was holding a gun and they replaced it later with a flag. I could be mistaken, but with the Infinity Gauntlet guest of 260, $399. Oh, wait, we have Yarna Paul's Infinity Gauntlet 340. I think that's as close as anyone got without going over for Infinity Gauntlet. Yarna Paul's with the win. Now let's take a look at how to structure those eBay search strings. Sorry, it's going to do that every time. So let me just zoom in a bit, right? So for Marvel, this is one that I took a few different spellings because I wasn't sure how people were going to reference it. So the official book is Marvel 75th Anniversary, but then some people called it 75 years because that's what it said in the title. So I just did Marvel 75. Then I spelled it out a couple of times. I probably now with retrospect would have one that is just Marvel 75 years because that's how that person said it. But so you could see how differently people said it. 75 years, 75th anniversary, 75 years. There's only been 3 copies recently. So that's part of why it's been so small. So it is obscure, right? Not that many people want it, and there's not that many copies out there. And then I always end with omnibus. Sometimes it pays to also put oversized in that string at the end because some people who don't know they have an omnibus, but they know it's big, might put oversized or deluxe. You have to be careful with deluxe though, because if it's a character that has had deluxes like Wolverine, you're going to get deluxes in with that search. So you got to be a little bit choosy. I think if we put in, I don't think we're going to get any more, but let's just see if we change it. We're going to put oversized, deluxe, and then OHC, right? Some people say OHC. Let's see if we get any more results. Nope, same 3 results. But, you know, I'm in the process of perfecting these strings and I'm making it automated so that I can kind of revisit any string at any time. Yeah, that's with used copies, Ryan. I do not have only new checked. It's every copy on eBay. All right, let's continue. Here's your next lineup. Please list your guess as first book, number guess, second book, number guess. I think we've established that's the way to do it. We're finding this out together, and that's why I'm so excited to do new kinds of streams like this. What if we all love this? What if this is great? Like, the thing I was like, should we do a poll? No, that would be crazy to do 20 polls over the course of the stream, or do you want me to do a poll? We could do one as a poll. Okay. One of these books is, oh no, that's not Marvel First, the 1990s. Hold on. I think we have the wrong, oh no, don't look. Hold on. We got to go off stage for a second because that's the wrong cover. And I just want to make sure that, yeah, that book comes much, much later. That's the wrong cover. This is supposed to be Marvel First. So let me see if I can fix it real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. What is the book in your collection? What is the omnibus book in your collection with the oldest material in it? For me, it's probably X-Men, which is like crazy, but I don't really collect a lot of Silver Age and omnibus. I don't think I have any. Well, for Marvel. For DC, I think I probably have Golden Age Wonder Woman, right? So that's probably the one with the oldest. All right, I want to look to date modified. Marvel obscure. None of these things are the thing I want. I want a thing that's different than these things. Here we go. Omni covers full. That's what we were looking for. And then we're looking for Marvel Omnibus, Marvel Firsts. Here we go. Oh, no, that didn't work. There we go. Okay, and then, God. Only me, right? Only me would be live editing my slide deck as if this is like I'm curing cancer here, just like Sauron, in the middle of a stream. So I will get to your comments in just a moment, and I'll see, what do you think the oldest book in your repertoire is? All right, and we're back. Let's see. And I said an omnibus, so trade paperbacks does not count. Nothing, since I don't own any omnibuses anymore. Daria says Black Panther. Cruel Angel says Strange Tales, Body by Leafield, Fantastic Four, which makes sense. That's 1961. Yarn and Pulse saying my oldest is Flapper Girl, cartoonist book from the 20s. I mean, I have older stuff in book, but I was thinking about Marvel omnibuses. One Wheelchair agreeing with me that it is X-Men Volume 1. Okay, so this is not classics. We're going to do classics later. This is Marvel Firsts, the omnibus. Why? I couldn't tell you. But in 2015, Marvel decided to release this book, a discount trade paperback at best, in omnibus. And it's basically all of the first appearances of all of those characters. Let's see if we can name them all. Deadpool, Spider-Man 2099, Venom, Gambit, War Machine, Darkhawk, and Cable, but it does have much more obscure ones on the inside of the book as well. To me, this is super niche because almost every one of those characters has their own omnibus at this point, right? Gambit's in an X-Men omnibus, Cable's in an X-Force omnibus, or New Mutants, I guess. War Machine, his first appearance, was he even in the 90s? Did he not become War Machine until the 90s? It also probably his first issues of series from the 90s. And then Darkhawk really is the one lonely one on that cover with no omnibus. Now, Hawkeye by Fraction and Aja, or Aha, right? It's landmark run, huge, couldn't be bigger, massive award winner. The whole Disney Plus show is based on it. That's why I think we got a reprint in 2023, but only that one reprint. So now that I've got the right things on the screen, let's see what people have guessed. 40 for 1990s Hawkeye 150, 40 for 90s Hawkeye 55, 50 for 90s Hawkeye 300, Marvel First 175, Jade Rabbit going high, and Hawkeye 250, 1990 75 Hawkeye 65, James Rhodes 40, Hawkeye 75. Body by Leafield saw the answers, so is abstaining. One Wheel Track says Hawkeye 175, Firsts 60. Let's see. 19 to 45. So I think only Kane wins here because they said 45 exactly. And by Price is Right rules, if you get the exact number without going over, you have won. And in fact, I think you get like a bonus $1,000 or something on Price is Right if you get the exact number without going over. You win. Oh no, maybe that's in the Showcase Showdown at the end. You like win both prizes if you get the exact number. I don't know. It's been a while since I've called it sick from school and watched The Price is Right. But who got Hawkeye only going up to $100? Ryan Williams saying, I think Hawkeye is still in stock. Jamie C had Hawkeye at 90. Did anybody have exactly 100? Hawkeye was going for about 100 before the reprint. I don't know if we can count that as a guess, Ryan. It was not clearly a guess. So I think we're going to give it to Jamie C for Hawkeye. Now, this is, I think, a great example of a truly niche book that has no real appeal. The Marvel first book, unless you are a big 90s freak, like I could see if you had a friend or a family member who was like, oh man, I used to love collecting omnibuses or comic books in the 90s. I was into all these extreme characters like Deadpool and Darkhawk. As like a gag Christmas present, I could see getting them that Marvel first book. Like, that would make sense to me. But there's no omnibus collector, like, in our community who needs that book. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you would have that book in your collection. It doesn't do anything for you. Whereas the Hawkeye book, and I think part of it with that is it did get reprinted. Hawkeye is not a big seller in omnibus, and there is a comprehensive trade paperback that has the same material, so there's no exclusivity there. Like, if you don't want to shell out for the omnibus, you don't have to shell out for the omnibus, and I think that shows with 30 being the lower bound. Ryan, hold on, that I missed. We'll get back to that. Actually, just do it now. So Superdrop saying if you really want Darkhawk and Omnibus and are tired of waiting, oh well, yeah, Darkhawk is really the outlier there, but there are some more obscure things in there. Hawkeye isn't going to go over retail price that much to begin with, and then it got a reprint. And Ryan Williams was saying Fanatical messed up the values of some omnis. And I didn't do a Fanatical's research pass here, so some of these might have been books offered by Fanaticals. Fanaticals is an eBay seller who basically was getting cut rate Marvel books that were being liquidated out of the warehouse. I don't even think that they were remainder marked. They were just being liquidated. And they were selling them pretty much at the cost they got them. They were probably buying them by the pallet. So they were selling omnibuses for like 25 bucks, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, 50 bucks, because they were probably buying a case or a pallet of those omnibuses that had like 100, and they were just paying the price for that pallet. So they were getting them much cheaper than even DCBS were getting them to begin with. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a much more intriguing lineup. We have The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, released in 2016, never reprinted, because Marvel only had a brief window that they could do printings of these books from the Sax-Rohmer estate that featured Fu Manchu. And also, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, this is not the main Shang-Chi series. This is the secondary series that was actually a Kung Fu magazine with black and white hero features that had actually fleshed out a lot of early Iron Fist. Now that material is in the newly expanded, or no, not just first time ever, Iron Fist Omnibus. It was not originally in his Marvel Masterworks. It also had Shang-Chi, it had some Daughters of the Dragon stuff, but these books also collected the editorial features, and it has been 10 years since it's been printed, and we've had Shang-Chi in a movie since then. However, I would say it's pretty obscure, because I think maybe I gave it a 2 rather than a 1, but this is not even a comic book omnibus. It's a magazine omnibus. So it's not only obscure in that a lot of people didn't even know it existed, but it's obscure in that it's not a comic book. On the other side, we have perhaps the most famous omnibus material of all time, certainly in the running. It's Uncanny X-Men Volume 3, which has everything, I think, starting from Uncanny X-Men, I want to say 154 to like 169 or 76. Sorry, this is not a mapping show, as my favorite disclaimer is. I mean, the Brood Saga, you know, the New Mutants kicking off, really mostly. Oh, and it does have Scott and Madeline kissing, so it absolutely has through 175. So that's the original From the Ashes with art from Paul Smith. Some of the strongest X-Men material of all time. And for my money, the place where Claremont really figured out his voice. It has been reprinted one time, 5 years after the original printing, 5 years ago. And Uncanny X-Men books, if you've ever looked at the price on the aftermarket, they get wild. So let's see what the guesses are for these books. Sasmer saying 100 versus 225. James Rhodes saying 200 to 100. He thinks Deadly Hands is going to be higher. Nick N also thinks Deadly Hands is going to be higher. 250 to 170. Edwin, everybody thinks Deadly Hands is going to win. 300 to 100. One Wheelchair says Uncanny X-Men 3 had a small reprint. Maybe there was like a restock number reprint. I only counted reprints if they did change the ISBN. So if they did a straight printing that just said second printing without an ISBN change, I would not have caught that. Everybody seems to think Deadly Hands is going to be higher. Oh, William Lee thinks Deadly Hands 125, lower. Let's see. Cruel Angel thinks Kung Fu 250, Uncanny 300. Tiago lowballing Deadly Hands 100, and Uncanny X-Men 170. Lots of guesses on this one. All right, let's see. Kung Fu 50 to 139, Uncanny X-Men 114 to 265. So who came close to 139 without going over? Oh, wait, you put Uncanny X. Okay, but I think you're saying Uncanny X-Men will be more. Kung Fu will be 125. So you, I think, are the closest without going over. Jamie C had 120. Oh, but also another winner, Fusion Magnus, saying Kung Fu at 125. I think you two got the closest. I don't think anybody said 130 or 135. Now we have, for Uncanny X-Men, 265. Now, people went real high. We had Saz Murph at 225. Let's see, did anybody get any closer than 225? We had another 225 from William Lee. We had another 225 from Jade Rabbit. I think the 225s have it. Oh, wait, One Wheelchair X with Uncanny X-Men at 250 had the closest guess there. Okay, Novarg saying, buying over retails is bonkers is my stance, especially when at least Marvel's reprinting more often these days. Also, price of new omnibuses is going up from the source. Also, it's all, except for things like Masked Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, on Marvel Unlimited. So it's like there's nobody gatekeeping you there. Yeah, there's nobody gatekeeping you. All right. If we do this kind of thing again, which we might, I will try to figure out a way to like keep track, or I'll like take notes. We'll make it a real game, right? But you know, got to start somewhere. Okay, let's continue to the next book. So here's a very strange comparison. Think carefully. Brian Michael Bendis, Crime Noir. This is when Bendis was really towards the tail end of writing for Marvel. It's kind of funny that they put out a book of his indie stuff in 2017, which in a year when he was actively jumping ship to go to DC, where he would be the next year. They might have even known at this point. It's never been reprinted. So it's the only oversized version in omnibus format of like all of Brian Bendis's. This is not his Marvel material. This is all of his early independent comic books that were crime noir. So Bendis, even though some of us bag on him, he has his fans. And that, even though it's obscure, because like, it's not a one, because like if you know who Bendis is, that's cool to you. But in the scope of Marvel omnibuses, it's a book of non-Marvel material with Bendis's name on it. So like, to me, that's pretty obscure. On the other hand, we have a book that is, again, one of the most non-obscure books that Marvel has ever put out, Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Eric Larson. It's the second of the Michelinie books. It comes after the McFarlane Michelinie book, originally released just 1 week later in 2017. That can't be right because they're only 6 days apart. It should be 7 days. Reprinted in 2024. And of course, we've seen this exact cover in the trailer for the new Spider-Man movie. So let's see what the guesses are. Ryan Williams is starting at 100. He's saying that there's no way that Bendis book has sold for a highest price under its cover price. Saz Murph is like, Bendis a little bit undercover at 85. James Rhodes is like, no, the Bendis book will sell way over cover. And you have to think here, one of the challenges we're discovering is that if a book is niche, it means that it was not printed that much maybe to begin with. So even though there's limited interest in it, there might not be a lot of copies out there. Edwin Billy, it's like neither one of those are going to have a highest cover price over cover price because they were both pretty common books. Slasher says Crime Noir 100, Spider-Man 50 to 70. So Slasher thinks Crime Noir is going to be higher. So does Jamie C. So does Body by Leafield. But Jade Rabbit thinks Noir 125 highest. Remember, it could start low. There could be a $5 copy out somewhere. We're judging by highest. Spider-Man 275. Let's see how you all did. We have Crime Noir. Oh, we have Crime Noir from $65 to $235. Did anybody get close? Body by Leafield said 300. Did we get anybody over 200 for that one? I think the closest we got is some people at 130. Was there anybody higher than 130 on Crime Noir? You might take it at 130. Oh, wait. Only Kane, no. Only Kane was over at 250. Sorry, Only Kane. I think that 130 is our winner on Crime Noir from Yarn Pulse. I think. Bendis at 130. Now, for Spider-Man, Spider-Man 130 was actually its top price. So Spider-Man has sold as low as Crime Noir, but it has been only sold for a little bit over cover. And again, I think this comes down to just copies on the market. If we go to eBay for this Bendis book, I don't think we're going to see a lot of copies. How many? 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see the range. I mean, one of them in February sold and it was at auction. That's the other thing. I'm not really taking into account the difference between auction and buy it now. For auction, if you start it low and there's not a lot of people clamoring for it, it sells low. But look at all these other ones. They were not auction. They were buy it now. They listed them high. Somebody was like, I want some more Bendis. They got online. They bought it. But there were only 4 copies and only 1 at auction. So there was no chance for it to come in lower. If instead we look at the Spider-Man book, it sells all the time at a buy it now price that is pretty low, and it kind of fluctuates. This is sorted from newest to oldest. So at a point where there's less of them listed, maybe one of them went a little bit higher, but mostly they're going pretty low. So that is what creates the difference there. And again, Ryan, I did not look at condition. I thought about like, oh, should I only do new copies? But for some of the obscure books, there was like not enough copies to even do that. Hello to Omnibus Cafe. Body by Leafield looked at that Bendis book a year ago and noped out, which is fine. So yeah, the Bendis book with a clear knockout blow, a higher low price and a higher high price, which not many of you assumed. And it seems like getting that Crime Noir Omnibus right now, you'd have to get it for $150 because nobody's even listing it lower than that, unless, of course, you catch an auction. Well, these are only the completed listings. So let's go take a look at not completed listings. And none. There's none listed right now. 0, not a single one is on eBay right now. So there you go. Not even available, which kind of is also why they're going for what they go for when they go on sale, because if one pops up and somebody had it on their wish list, they probably snack it up. They snack it up without even negotiating. Okay, now we're in 2018. When some of you saw this book on the left on the thumbnail, you said, I don't even know what that is. It is Hellstorm by Warren Ellis. It has one of the most confounding maps of any omnibus in the Marvel collection. It makes me so angry, because Warren Ellis took over this Hellstorm title about halfway through and picked up tons of plot threads established from the beginning of it. And it's a very short series, and Marvel just didn't collect the beginning of it. They could have still put Ellis's name on it and collected, I think it's like 8 or 10 issues that came before he took it over. But no, they just start it cold in the middle of the series with the Warren Ellis stuff. So it makes this really short omnibus with 0 context, and then it just ends. Oh, and then I think it has this Dr. Druid series in it too. Now, to be fair, there was a Hellstorm show on television at the time, which you also probably don't remember because it wasn't that successful. So this was Marvel being like, well, it is on TV. So in their mind, it wasn't that obscure, and it's got Ellis's name on it, but it's still pretty obscure because people don't even know that there was a 1990s run of Hellstrom that was called Hellstorm, confusingly, that was written by Warren Ellis. And also just the mapping is awful. So then they put out like a trade paperback of the first half. Why didn't they just do it as an omnibus? It makes no sense to me. On the other side, we have one of our heaviest hitters, Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, Volume 2. However, even though that was released just 3 short months before the Hellstorm book, Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, Volume 2 has been reprinted twice, in 2016 and in 2023. Oh, that can't be right. Not 2016. Clearly, I made that up. Reprinted once in 2023. Okay, well, I guess we're not doing guesses because I just clicked the slide and here it is. So this one wouldn't have been that much fun to guess because they both sell for around the same amount, which is crazy. Hellstorm, I mean, barely getting past the 50% mark, only selling for 60, but who wants it? You would have to be a Warren Ellis freak or like a Damon Hellstrom freak. Do any of those even exist? Because it's mapped terribly and it's like a random 90s book that's just an incomplete run. On the other hand, the Avengers by Jonathan Hickman run, huge, historic, about to be reflected in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's been printed a lot. And so there's a lot of copies out there to buy. It sold for just as cheap as the Hellstorm book. And I didn't look at any listings with like multiple books in them. This was just purely like what the lowest price of a single copy was. And the idea that you could get Jonathan Hickman Avengers Volume 2 at $36 is absolutely wild to me. But was that a Fanaticals book? Maybe that's why. A few of you did think to get in guesses before I messed up there. So we might actually have a winner. We had, Body by Leafield, first guess out of the gate, nailed it on Hellstrom, saying Hellstrom 60, Hickman 90. So you're over in Hickman, but you did get the ratio just about right. Did anybody guess Hickman lower than 100? I don't think anybody got, I don't think anybody got the Hickman book. Wait, Ryan Williams saying he guessed 60? Where did you guess 60? I'm suspicious, sir. Oh no, yeah, that was the one we just looked at. So 60, you win, but nobody got it on the Hickman book. Why is it so cheap? Was it bad? No, it's not bad. It's Avengers by Hickman. I like the first half of the run better, but I think there's just a lot of copies out there, and people need the number 1 to want the number 2. Although really the number 2 reads just fine without the number 1. Sasmurph gets 80 for Hickman, just missed it. Okay, let's continue. So here is, this could be the biggest mismatch of the entire time. I don't know. We did have Uncanny X-Men versus something earlier. Marvel, briefly, in 2019 and 2020, I guess because it was the 80th anniversary, got really into printing Golden Age comics for one moment in time, and then kind of gave up on it. So they printed this Timely's Greatest, The Golden Age Human Torch by Carl Burgos, of interest to no one, except for huge nerds, because Carl Burgos, you have to be a deep comic book lore expert to even have an idea of who that is. And the original Human Torch is not the Fantastic Four Human Torch, although maybe some people bought it thinking that, who knows, hopefully the word original would have tipped them off. So it's pretty obscure, and it's only been printed the one time. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski, Volume 1, originally released in 2019, not reprinted until 2022. One of the biggest and most popular Spider-Man runs for reasons I cannot explain to you because I hate it. But it is a very popular run, and it's sold. I think that's one of those ones that sold out like in a flash when it came out, and then it got reprinted and sold out. So I think there is going to be a big disparity here. But again, I have the brain of a goldfish, so I do not have any recollection. William Lee says 60 versus 175. Sasmer saying 50 to 190. The map for the Hickman run, which we just came off of Shahid, is not weird. I just always wished it had Avengers World in it, but in terms of things written by Hickman, it is perfect. He mapped it exactly how he wanted it. Torch 90 to Spider-Man 240. Dummy Spider saying that the JMS book was way too much. A lot of 240 guesses for the Spider-Man book. Spider-Man 120, Spider-Man 250, Spider-Man 180, Spider-Man greater than 300, and Human Torch we had guesses as low as 30. Let's see what the answer is. Human Torch 45. We had Edwin Billiot at 40, but Logan guessed 45 exactly. So did One Wheelchair X. Body by Leafield missed by $3 with a guess of 48. But Ryan Williams, you are really good at this game. Ryan Williams guessing 45 as well. But now let's look at Spider-Man topping out. This is crazy. I would never pay this for. There is no omnibus. It could be an omnibus. It could be an omnibus of Lady Gaga's original handwritten lyrics for the Fame, and I would not pay $339 for that. That is crazy talk. So did anybody guess over 300? I do remember one person said 300. Oh, hold on. Oh, 350 from Alex Fetolock, 48.93. Over. We cannot give it to you by Price is Right rules. I think Colt Dog, if we're counting that as an official guest, got the closest. Okay, JMS, of course, a very, very popular run for many people, some of which have good taste. Now let's continue. We're still in 2019 because these Timely books were pretty freaking obscure. This is Timely's Greatest, The Golden Age, Simon and Kirby. Part of why I'm calling this obscure, even though it has that truly awesome cover of Captain America with Bucky on the back of the bike, because it doesn't say Captain America in the title. It says it on the subtitle on the omnibus featuring Captain America, the Vision, and the Fiery Mask. But if somebody was just looking at it in a catalog or seeing it on Amazon, it's just the Simon and Kirby names. Now, the Simon and Kirby names are huge, but does the typical Marvel fan even know that Timely is Marvel? Do they, it's just a lot of information, a lot of insider information that you need to know in order to do this. So, On the other side, we have Incredible Hulk by Peter David, Volume 1. It was originally released, we had to split between 2019 and 2020. There was nothing close enough that was popular enough in December 2019. So I went to 2020. It has never officially been reprinted that I've seen, but I believe there was a restock of it early on, meaning it had like a second printing indicia, but it was the same ISBN. It was never like relisted on booksellers. So like technically sort of a stealth reprint. Slasher, there is no weighting of the prices at all. It is the cheapest price that it sold for in the last period that eBay will show, and the highest price. It is in US dollars, and it is not with shipping included. That's the one factor. Like if somebody was like, yeah, I'm selling this book for $1 and shipping is $1,000. I didn't get that deep, man. This is just a game show. This is just a game show. This is not one of my intense omnibus deep dives. All right, so let's let the bidding begin. Body by Leafield saying 45 versus 300. William Lee saying 55 to 185. Edwin Billiot saying 45 to 300. A lot of people like that 45 number after it was just a winner. 45 to 350. People are going wild on the Hulk book. 54 to 370. That might be the highest guess anybody's reasonably made on a book this entire time. Let us see what it is. The Kirby and Simon book has gone as high as 76. Big smackers. Who had 75? We had a 65. Oh, Momin Shirazi had a 70. And I think you're going to take it with 70. I think that's as close as anybody got to 76. I do not see a 75. But now let's turn our attention to the Hulk book. The Hulk book's highest price, $464. That's madness. That's madness. That is almost a decade of Marvel Unlimited, and I think Saturday Morning Fan might have it with 370. I don't think anybody guessed higher than 370. Saturday Morning Fan, congratulations. Please do not go and spend that amount of money on that book. Also, I hate that cover so much. Of all the things you can show on the cover, the Hulk totally silhouetted in black with just his face, and it's like that cartoony, broader gray Hulk. It's not my aesthetic. That Simon Kirby cover, I think, is just so aesthetically pleasing. Okay, let us continue. Now we're in 2020, so you have to remember that in 2020, omnibuses were going out of stock like lightning because it was pandemic time, and people were locked in their houses, and they got into new hobbies, such as collecting omnibuses. So this is Adventure into Fear, which I've always thought is kind of a weird omnibus because some of Adventures into Fear is in other books. Like, I think Morbius has some of it, Swamp Thing has some of it. So it's one of these, I like that Marvel did it, but DC somehow has found a lot of success on books like this because DC, I think, was really known for maintaining their anthology-style horror books in the Bronze Age. So they had House of Mystery, House of Secrets, The Witching Hour, and they've had a lot of omnibuses of all those, which I still think are pretty niche because, like, if you don't know about that, you'd be like, what is this book? Marvel really didn't maintain that many horror omnibuses in the same way. So this is, it's niche not only because not a lot of people know about it, but because it's pretty rare in Marvel's line in that way. Against Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski Volume 2, which was released a few months later in September, and it did get a reprint in 2024. So here you have to take into account that there are some more copies of that Spider-Man book on the market. People are lowballing Fear. They think the highest number for Fear is going to be under cover price, but Saz Murph is like, no, I think it's got to be over cover price. Only Kane is like, it's going to be worth nothing. People don't care. It's worthless, with a guess of 35. And now that people saw that Hulk book, people are going really high on their guess on Spider-Man. 242, 300 plus. Let's see the answers. Adventures into Fear, just a few copies have sold, and it is right in a pretty tight range, and Jade Rabbit nailed it, $75. So did Colt Dog. It is still selling for under cover price. You can get it if you want to. William Lee got it as well. Sorry, Max, I missed your lighting cue there when you demanded lightning, but my hands were full. But on the Spider-Man side, it's not that high. A lot of you thought it was going to be absolutely wild. There's a very reasonable top price. And honestly, I personally will not pay over cover for a book. I think I only ever did it once, and I think it was Tomb of Dracula Volume 2. But I don't think anybody got the Spider-Man book. I think you all guessed too high. Oh wait, Ryan's at only $75 for the Spidey book. Is Ryan gonna win at $75? Are you gonna allow that to happen? Am I gonna allow that to happen? I don't know. Wait, was this 45 a guess on Spider-Man? That would be extremely low. I think what we've learned is next time you have to sell an omnibus, you should go to Ryan and have Ryan price it for you because Ryan's the voice of the people. Ryan knows all about it. Okay, but yeah, 38, the lowest price for Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I feel that we've trended really far game show here and we're not as educational, but my whole point of this was to talk about like, what does it mean to be niche? So here's Adventures into Fear. And again, just not a lot of copies sold. So like, you know, they're all within this same little range. Ooh, this one, did I miss that? Why don't I have 56? I don't know. Maybe it didn't come up when I originally did my search. Can't explain. No warranties provided on this information. Only for entertainment purposes. But if we look at how many are for sale, there's actually a fair amount of them for sale. Some people have a buy it now set into the hundreds. That ain't going to get them anywhere at this point because there's people that are selling it lower for the same buy it now. And also people can see the eBay history. So obviously they are not going to do it. This is the best compliment I could ever get, that I'm better than Drew Carey. I'm obsessed with game shows. I love classic game shows. I love Game Changer on Dropout. I love Whose Line Is It Anyway? I love the Snatch Game on Drag Race. I love a good game show. Now, I think over time, they've gotten simplistic. I think that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was complex in design, really brought about an advent of game shows that were kind of like, we're just going to put a bunch of numbers on screen and take away options and make you, like, there's a British show like that that's on literally every time I've ever been in a doctor's waiting room here. That show's always on a loop. And I just think I like the old game shows like Whammy, Whammy, No Whammy, No Whammy. What was that called? Or like $64,000 Pyramid. I like shows that like had like an animated goofy structure to them, but nothing to me is cooler than The Price is Right. You want to know what I'd pay $464 for? The chance to just once drop the penny on the full-size, life-size Plinko board at Price is Right. I do have a friend of a friend who actually was on Price is Right and won. And they won like, I think they won the Showcase Showdown, some like really cool like entertainment room with like a pool table and stuff. And when they found out the taxes that they would have to pay, because you have to pay usually 40% taxes on winnings in the United States, they actually declined the prize because they could not pay the taxes on the prize amount. Aaron reminded me that it was Press Your Luck. I loved the Drew Carey sitcom back in the day. And Enter Sandwich says, I still watch Jeopardy and fantasize about being on it. Teenie Howard was just on Jeopardy, which is so weird to me because like a comic book writer to me is like a famous person. I'm like, you can't have a famous person on non-celebrity Jeopardy. Okay, this cover is so cool. I'm not sure. This is Golden Age Marvel Comics Volume 2. So Volume 1 is that very famous one with the Marvel Comics 1 cover of the Human Torch kind of burning through a wall. This is Volume 2. Did you even know that they did this? This was another 2020 book. It's never been reprinted. That cover, I think it's Carrie Andrews. I'm obsessed with that cover. There's something so cool about it to me. So vivid. But this is Golden Age Comics. And I think that by definition is pretty obscure. On the other side, we have another Peter David Incredible Hulk volume, which did get a reprint, but we all know, we saw the last one, right? Went for $464. Peter David did relatively recently pass away, so I think these books are pretty hot. Saturday Morning Van, remember Double Dare? Or remember, was it Legends of the Hidden Temple? Legends of the Secret? It was like kids like running all around. You had to like pull on stuff and jump through things and whatever. Kind of like American Gladiator for kids. I think that's the other thing. There used to be game shows that were like a little bit like goofy and physical, but they still fell into the game show category. But I think reality television has like transmuted them all to being like American Ninja Warrior. Like they've all are Fear Factor. Like they've all now become their own productions and they're not as low key as like a relatively silly game show. Okay, so let's see where the guesses are. I think we all know Golden Age is going to come in lower than Hulk, right? So Richard B. starting us off here at Golden Age for 50, Hulk for 400. People are just letting loose on Hulk. But James Rhodes is like, no, it had a reprint. It wasn't that long ago. I'm guessing Hulk could be as low as 85. Is anybody guessing 100? Now, Ryan, who has proven to be the oracle of this, and I think who has the most points of anybody, if anybody's keeping score, Ryan says Golden Age is going to be 100 and Hulk is as low as 38 because it was had by Fanaticals, which is like bonus information that I necessarily was not aware of. GE 3045 saying Marvel 55, Hulk 160. Only Kane saying 75, 175. William Lee saying 55, 200. Let's see. The answer is Golden Age Marvel 69 to 99. So it's coming in $1 under full retail price. And Incredible Hulk, probably driven down by the Fanatical situation, is lower on both sides. So Golden Age Marvel sells for higher at the low range and higher at the high range. Did anybody have $99 without going over at 100? Saturday Morning Fan had $89. So I think that is pretty close. We cannot give it to Edwin Billiot with 100. Did anybody? Oh, 95 for One Wheelchair X. I think that's going to be our winner there, unless Ryan, the Omnibus Whisperer. I mean, he's giving himself credit because he got 100, but I do believe 95 from One Wheelchair X is our winner. And then Hulk, y'all guessed so high. Ryan said it was as low as 38, but did anybody get... James Rowe just missed at 85, but Body by Leafield with 80 exactly on Hulk, which is exactly how much it is selling for. Okay, let us continue. And again, I now would buy this book. I think I didn't get Golden Age curious until I started buying Golden Age Wonder Woman. That for me was a pandemic purchase because we didn't know how long we were going to be in lockdown. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to finally do that Wonder Woman show that I've wanted to do. And so I got Golden Age Wonder Woman, and then I got addicted. Now, if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have bought several of these Golden Age Marvel books. And luckily, they're not that expensive, so although after shipping. I mean, I would just let you... So this one, the delivery to New Zealand, was only $8. But some of the delivery to New Zealand is like $90 or $100. So oh no, but I have my location set to the United States right now. So it's only $8 delivered to the United States. New Zealand delivery is never less than $70. But again, this book... This was the outlier that I didn't include because I don't know why it sold for that. There's plenty of copies around, and it was on sale from this to this or best offer. So that best offer could have been like $1. Who knows? So I that was the one outlier I mentioned earlier that I did not count. But yeah, there's just not as many copies of that in the system as Incredible Hulk. And then Incredible Hulk, because there's so many copies in the system, means there are just, and it was just for sale, it drove the price down. So it just goes to show, just because a book is niche does not necessarily mean it's cheap. But a lot of these niche books, if we were to kind of like scroll up through the slides, there's just, you know, we very rarely see one of these niche books that gets more than 20% higher than its retail price. And the ones that do are ones where we've just seen there's limited copies available on the market. So I think, if anything, scarcity, as always, is the driver of this. So now finally, we come to the one that I teased earlier, and that the number earlier was not for this book, it was for Marvel First, so you weren't spoiled. We're still in that initial pandemic lockdown year. It's 2020, and Marvel, for reasons that no one could ever explain, releases the Marvel Classics comics. Not Marvel Classic Comics, Marvel's Classics comics, because they were Marvel Classics, and they were comics of the classics. And this has like adaptations of stories of mythology and history in it. To me, feels like a trade paperback. Like, what would be the motivation of doing this in Omnibus? Like, it's, if you're trying to say like, oh, maybe schools will use it as a textbook. Yeah, as a trade paperback. I just think it's insane. And this is not material with a lot of notoriety. Like, I didn't even know some of it existed. On the other side, we have a book that sold out so fast originally that I didn't even have time to order it, and I had to track down a copy in New Zealand. I think this is the omnibus I paid the most actual dollars for, even converted from New Zealand dollars to American dollars, because it was a panic situation and we didn't know what was going to happen, and I freaked out. Okay, I just freaked out. So let's see the guesses. We have, yes, before we continue, the Nickelodeon game shows used to be filmed in Philadelphia. As we know, I grew up in Philadelphia too, and so I always thought like, oh, maybe I could get on those, which is maybe why to this day I do have an obsession with Nickelodeon shows. I've been in the studio audience. I've always wanted to be in the studio audience. I've been to so many concerts, so many live talks, some of which have been web streamed. I've never been in a live studio audience. Body by Leafield saying 60 to 50. James Rhodes saying 50, 250. Everybody's sure that New Mutants is going to go big, 185. But Marvel Classic Comics at 210? Wasn't it just a Fanaticals book? I don't know. James Rhodes bought Marvel Classic Comics for my mother, who read them as a kid. See, that's adorable. And a great reason it could have been a trade paperback. Cult Dog saying 60, 275. Shouldn't they do everything in Omnibus eventually? Yeah, but my point being, Superjob, that it just feels like on the list of obscure Marvel omnibuses, there's probably some other like late 70s, early 80s relative obscurities that probably more people are aware of. And I just don't think Marvel, I think now that we're seeing them like put things out through Fanaticals, put things out through Dark Horse and put things out through Fantagraphics, it feels like stuff like this that doesn't rely on the Marvel audience is better put out through those sellers because they know how to sell things on the book market. They know how to go to book fairs. They know how to sell it to educators. They know how to they know how to market this stuff. Marvel doesn't. Marvel doesn't know how to sell books that are not comic books. Even DC is better than that. So it's just like weird to me to make it an omnibus because I just don't think Marvel has the capacity. So let's see where this came in. Classics, shockingly, has sold copies higher than $100, and Richard B had 99. Did anybody guess just over 100? Technically, by Price is Right rules, we've got to give it to Jade Rabbit, who guessed 100 for Classics, beating also Ryan Williams, who had 99. Jade, I think you might have it on the Marvel Classics. I don't think anybody else guessed over 100. But you did not get it on New Mutants, which is up to 265. So we got to go shopping for somebody who went over 200. One Wheelchair X coming in strong with 250, as did James Rhodes. But wait, there is another. Jamie C with New Mutants at 260. I believe you are our winner. Colt Dog had 275. That is a little bit over. I think you got it with 260. Okay. I have not read Frankenstein, but that is another one that I think I have right off camera. Here it is. I do actually. I think this is Gene Colan, right? Hold on. No, this is not Gene Colan. Is there other Frankenstein other than this one? Because I have this one. But it's not Gene Colan. Okay. Well, folks, we're almost done because I didn't take it all the way up to the current year because there's too many markets that are like, too many books that are still in the market for things in the past 2 years. So we've only got a few more. Now we're in 2021, a book that I did just buy. And I mean, now I kind of have to spend overcover on a lot of things here in New Zealand because they're just, did I already bring it downstairs? I have to spend a lot of overcover on a lot of things in New Zealand because it's just expensive to get things in New Zealand. I must have already brought it downstairs. But the book is Kazar the Savage, originally released in 2021. Now, this one is really puzzling to me because Kazar does have Silver Age material. And I personally think that his Silver Age material has much more notoriety than this late 70s, early 80s material, which frankly, I don't think I'd even heard of before the Omnibus came out. I think if they'd put out a Marvel Masterworks volume, personally, for me, I thought it would have done better. However, the Marvel Masterworks already exist. And maybe Marvel knew that they were low sellers anyway, so they were like, let's just take a chance on getting this out in Omnibus. But I was really puzzled by this one. I do love Kazar, and I was holding out for several years that like maybe it would turn into an epic line. Finally, this year I've given up and I realized not everything's going to be an epic line. I think at this point, epics feel like they're going to struggle across the finish line, especially with Marvel canceling the Marvel Masterworks line, so I finally bought it. On the other side, Moon Knight. Moon Knight did get a reprint, but he's a hugely popular character across all media. He was already one of probably the most popular niche characters at Marvel. And now that he's in games, now that he had a TV show, and now that people realize there's really no bad Moon Knight comics. I mean, even in the 90s when 90 comics weren't that great, they were still pretty fun. This is the original Moon Knight. It's Doug Munch Moon Knight. It says on the cover, even though I know it's tricky because it's a David Finch cover, and David Finch did the covers for the 2006 Moon Knight run with Dave Houston writing, but this is a David Finch cover for the original 1970s Moon Knight Volume 1. Let's see where the guesses are. So the chats are covering up the amounts. We're going to pretend that's by design, though, Kyle. Okay, so let's see what people are guessing. 70 and 90. Omnibus Cafe lowballing. Ryan, like, isn't Kazar still in print? In print with Omnibus is such a weird term because in print, nothing's... The only thing that's truly in print in this world is something that's being printed continuously. Nothing's technically in print, but as an industry term, in print means available from the distributor, and out of print means it's not available from the distributor. The thing about Marvel books is that Marvel endeavors to sell through their books so quickly that there's none left at the distributor pretty quickly for like just about any Marvel book. But there might be some at Penguin Random House. But then a lot of these books, because they're big books and they don't move super quickly, might still be in stock at places like iStock Trades or DCPS, or, well, not DCPS, but you get my point. Amazon. So it might be stocked somewhere, even though it is not out of print. So that's tricky. I didn't take that into account here. I just picked the most niche book from one year, and the thing that came the closest, Kazar 165, Moon Knight 85, Kazar 165, Moon Knight 95. That's a remarkable one. 175, 94, 75, 40, 95, 200. We got a wide range of guesses. Kazar is going to be more popular once Marvel Studios wakes up and realizes Marvel plus dinosaurs equals money. Let's see if Marvel plus dinosaurs equals money here. Kazar topping out at 70. Whoa, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. LOCD Daria came in at 60 on the Kazar. Did anybody get higher between 60 and 70? Richard B just missed at 75. Another 75 from Logan. But we had Ryan Williams, the Omnibus Whisperer, who also got it at 60, just aging out Jamie C at 59. I think you're both of you guessing 60. Wait, there is another. Omnibus Cafe, who I made fun of for lowballing, got it at 70. And that's exactly the right price. You have won this showcase showdown. But now looks at Moon Knight. Some people guessed pretty high. We have Body by Leafield by 130. Kyle, are you regretting your life choices? You missed it by $1. I think that Body by Leafield 130 might be our winner on this. Nobody got any closer without... Oh no! Cold Dog at 135. But Ryan pointing out $15 to 150. That surely had to be a buy it now. Maybe it was ex-library, maybe it was in bad condition. But Moon Knight doesn't surprise me that it's 150, but I think a lot of these ranges show never just go on eBay and buy a book on that day. Like that's absurd. Don't do that. eBay is a constantly shifting marketplace, and deals will come and go. You've got to use these sold search listings. You've got to, because if you don't use the sold search listings to see what it has gone for recently, you don't have any idea. So Kazar actually has sold a number recently, and I get mine? I think I got mine from New Zealand because it was cheaper here in New Zealand. But you can see that there's a range. So if we went to the ones that are listed right now, it would be absurd to pay over $100 for this right now, because the trend is that it's going to come up lower than 100. Now, there are people selling it for 100, 150, 152, but like there's a lot of them on eBay right now. These people are not going to make that money. So you should always, when you're shopping on eBay, do a search for completed listings. But I think what's really interesting here is that Moon Knight, a hugely popular book, still managed to sell a copy for $15. Okay, we're almost to the end here. There's only a few more. But one of those is these month books. So Marvel, as a celebration of their history, 60 years on, released a book August 1961, which was the month the first issue of Fantastic Four came out. But the book collects the entire Marvel line from that month. Now, it is a very cool historic artifact. And again, for somebody in your life who loves the Silver Age and loves the Silver Age comics and maybe bought them off of the rack, that would be a really cool book to give them as a gift, because it's just, and some of us really like looking through those yearbooks because it's like just it's an example of everything that was happening in the Marvel Universe that month. Would I spend $100 on that? No. Would I spend $50 on that? No. Do I want it taking up shelf space as an omnibus in my house? No. To me, that's a trade paperback. Like, there's nothing you can do. Yes, I know it's the only way that we get Millie the Model collected, but there is nothing you can do to make me pay any amount of money to keep that. It's not worth the rent that I'm paying on the square inch of my house that has the shelf. It's just not. Then we have the Uncanny X-Men Volume 4. And I think all of us know that with this never being reprinted and being an X-Men book, it's going to be wild. Okay. So get your guesses in. We have James Rhodes lowballing $40 on 1961. Could it go lower than $40? $260 higher. When I was making these slides, I actually remembered in specific that One Wheelchair X needs an Uncanny X-Men 4. If you happen to be listening within this, if you're within the sound of my voice and you're in the United Kingdom and you have a spare Uncanny X-Men Volume 4, One Wheelchair X would like to buy it. Omnibus Cafe is like, you are not going to underbid me. I'm guessing $12 for 1961. Richard B saying 79 versus 200. A lot of 200s. We're going to have a lot of ties if it is $201. Let's see. August 1961 is kind of in that same range. I think for an omnibus that's been relatively recent and didn't have a huge Fanaticals blowout, I think we're not going to see anything lower than $40. And it goes to show you, even the most niche book, these are actual sold prices. So even the most niche book in the world, somebody will still kind of pay like IST, DCBS first month of release prices to acquire that book. Uncanny X-Men, I was expecting it to top out even higher than $350 because of X-Men tax, but I think the important number here is 200 as the lower number, not lower than 200. And Colt Dog, who's emerging as a true competitor for Ryan, getting it exactly to the dollar. But 200 is the lower range. You ain't got squat. Tiago went over with 400. All right, we got to scroll up. This is I gotta look through this. Okay. So I'm looking for somebody who got close to 70 without getting over. We had 55 from Edwin Billiot with a 70. That was the exact amount. Good job, Edwin Billiot, just edging out our Omnibus Whisperer, Ryan Williams. Now, the X-Men book at $350, Body by Leafield at $300, Saz Murph at $323, which means you, my sir, are probably the closest without going over. Nobody got that close without going over. Okay, let's continue. Here's another obscure one, The Complete Kirby War and Romance. And here's the thing. This has issues in it that I want because I love those like romance books, those obscure romance books. But I don't just want Kirby. And I know it's not like there's continuity. There's not continuity. So it shouldn't matter if we just get the Kirby issues. But I look at a book like that and I go, it means we left stuff uncollected. And that just bugs me. You could have still sold it in the Kirby name and had other stuff. Anyway, that's about as obscure as it gets. There's a core of Kirby buying fans, and that's probably it. On the other side, we have X-Men Inferno, which used to be 2 separate oversized hardcovers. Here it came out in Omnibus. And you know, with Inferno being the focus of X-Men 97 last year, that prices on this probably got pretty hot. Momin is like, I'm not messing around this time. I'm coming in at $389 for Inferno. Sesmerv at $378. Inferno is a great Mother's Day story. Is it Mother's Day somewhere? Is that why people keep bringing up Mother's Day? I don't know, because I live in New Zealand and we have different holidays than the rest of you. Okay, I'm going to call it on this one pretty quickly. Let's see what we have. Last chance for guesses. 3, 2, 1. There's only been 1 copy sold of The Complete Kirby War and Romance. So let's go take a look at that. And it was at $105. Did anybody guess exactly 100? Colt Dog's at 80. I think you might have it. Oh, James Rhodes at 99, unless nobody, I don't think anybody said 100. I think James Rhodes got it. Okay, let's go take a look at eBay for a second there, because I just think that was so funny. Maybe another one sold in the, nope, just the one. Now let's see how many are listed. So is this truly rare that none of them ever come up, or can you just not get rid of it? I think the answer is, there's not a lot of them. And what's interesting is these are all listed way higher, but they're way higher on a buy it now, and they're a buy it now without like a make an offer. So they're probably just going to sit because there's only 1 completed one and it's sold much lower. Inferno doesn't even start until 252, and it doesn't even start at until 150. It ends at 252. James Rhodes might have won both of them. Have we had anybody win both sides of the equation? Did anybody guess exactly 250? I don't see any 250 guesses. I think you got both sides, which means not only did you get both, but you got it right that X-Men Inferno would be higher than war and romance. All right, only a couple more to do here. Oh, yeah. This is Knights of Pendragon, a book that I love, and you cannot take that love away from me because I love Marvel UK. So I'm never going to complain to get Marvel UK and Omnibus. That is an ideal state of affairs for me. But, I mean, this, first of all, X of Swords was in 2021. That was probably the most attention Captain Britain got in that period of years. Why would you release this in 2022? Like, in December 2022? Captain Britain, no, it just makes no sense. I love that we have an omnibus. It was 2 separate volumes, so it's a pretty thick omnibus of those 2 comic book runs. But I just don't see it. Like, and you didn't even call it, it could have been called Captain Britain, Knights of Pendragon, Captain Britain and the Knights of Pendragon. Like, there were options out there, Marvel. I just don't understand sometimes. I'm sure there are rules about like how they have to title things for like marketing, whatever, but it just seems like at least if you put you know what you could have titled it? Captain Britain before Excalibur, Knights of Pendragon. Which is not entirely accurate because some of it happened like right around the same time as Excalibur. I'm just trying to help you, Marvel. I'm just trying to help you sell your books. On the other hand, we have one of the certified hits. I don't know why it says 2026 and 2022. Clearly, I got the dates wrong. Who the fuck knows what the actual dates were? I need a full-time proofreader as much as Todd McFarlane does at this point. But anyway, your guesses are in. So let's see. We have Knights of Pendragon topping out at a monstrous $65. Ryan Williams said 60, but Richard B had 65 on the dot. And I don't think anybody else had 65 exactly. So Richard B, oh no, wait, Omnibus Cafe also with the exact guess of 65. For Thor, a good point here, they did just announce a reprint. So this is being suppressed by the fact that within the range of time that this search was for, we've already known a reprint is coming, but not everybody knows that. So it still went higher than cover at 125, and Edwin Billiot had 120. So I think that is going to be our winner on that one, 120. But Ryan said I guessed right. Ryan won. Ryan, what you ain't win shit. You didn't get either of them. I guess you're like one of these people that everybody gets like a participation trophy. I don't know. Anyway, but Knights of Pendragon, I think eventually the copies will dry up, and because it's X-Men adjacent, the X-Men freaks will make it climb up in price eventually. But the fact that it doesn't have Captain Britain or Excalibur in the title means it is really, really niche. And that's fine. Marvel UK is niche. Whereas Thor is about as mainstream as you can get. I think they're going to reprint it eternally. It's an amazing run. It's one of my favorite runs of comic books of all time. Okay. Now we have June 1962, which was the debut month of Spider-Man, I think, an Amazing Fantasy. And that's why he is front and center on that title and cover versus later that year, Avengers vs. X-Men, which had already had its own oversized hardcover, but this was the first time it'll be an omnibus. Clearly, now that the X-Men are coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are going to be seeing some interest in this kind of stuff. Uh-oh, I don't see anybody. Okay, here comes the numbers. So, Avengers vs. X-Men, it is the biggest Marvel Omnibus of all time. I actually saw an eBay listing that pointed that out. Good marketing. And these yearbooks, I just don't understand the allure. Yeah, but Kyle the Mighty is saying, I just got AVX on Fanaticals, so it can't be that high. But not everybody was aware of Fanaticals. Of course, it would have come up if you did your search. But once Fanaticals dried up, I bet the price shot high again because it's AVX. I mean, Fanaticals did get some books that were discounted that are actually high demand books, and Marvel just liquidated them, when if Marvel had just kept them an extra 5 months, they probably could have sold them for a lot more. But Marvel is not a patient group of people when it comes to these things. Let's see the dollar amounts. That 1962 book topped out at $30. $30. Can we give credit for -7? I don't know. It depends on if anybody else guessed low enough. $30. Oh, Larry, I don't know. Larry's a couple of slides behind right now. I don't think anybody got it. I don't think anybody guessed low enough. Oh, wait. James Rhodes, who's emerging as our most powerful guesser. However, James Rhodes, this has to hurt. You missed AVX by $1 and you're over, so we can't give it to you, which means Body by Leafield got it at $2.10. Sorry about that, James Rhodes, but you are really proving yourself to be a champion at this game. And I think, let's see, I think we only have one or two more. So this is Marvel Age. Marvel Age is not the Marvel Age. It's a Marvel Age house magazine that Marvel put out. I mark this as obscure because, again, it's not a comic book. It's a magazine, and it's not even like a significant magazine. It's just like reading old previews, which honestly I would do. But I just, again, to me, this feels like a series of like, put it on some cheap newsprint quality like trade paperbacks. Do like an essentials style print for this. And I know for a fact that this was just on Fanaticals. On the other side, we have the Immortal Hulk, never reprinted. It's funny, I think they must have done a restock at some point, right? On Reddit, people freak out about this book. They're like, is it gone yet? Can I get it yet? And I am telling you, this book, when it truly dries up and people are done selling copies, because there's just enough copies in the world, it was pre-ordered enough, it's at enough comic book stores. When the copies of Immortal Hulk truly dries up, I do think this has potential to be the highest priced omnibus out there because people are waiting. There's so many people. Every day, I swear I see another 2 or 3 people on Reddit who are like, should I get it? Should I go for it? It's around cover now. People that are waiting and waiting and waiting, when it goes away, this is going to be a $500 book. I'm telling you. But there are enough of it around that it's not totally out of reach. Novark saying reading old previews mags, which is kind of nice to do. If I lived in the States and I could just like go to like a yard sale or a Craigslist or something and just pick up the previews catalogs from like a whole 5-year range, I would do that in a heartbeat. I wish I had saved mine. There's just so much great information. Sometimes they had little articles or behind the scenes things, and I wish that somebody would digitize them all. I don't think they have all been digitized. All right, let's see the numbers and then let's see where people came in. Marvel Age topping out at 55, which I think makes sense because it was on Fanaticals. But Immortal Hulk getting a little silly. It's already up to $219. So first, let's see who got close without going over on Marvel Age. Unfortunately, Saturday Morning Fan missed it by 2. We have a 35. We have a 38. I think 30, wait, we have 45 from One Wheelchair X, who is proving that they are pretty good at this. So Jamie C. also with 45. James Rhodes also with 45. 45 is the magic number on this one. Lots of people got it. But Immortal Hulk, did anybody get over $200? Kyle the Mighty with $201 on Immortal Hulk. And that may be our winner. I don't see anybody who got any closer than $201. If I missed you, by the way, if I say nobody got it and then somebody got it, please let me know. But what's really interesting to me is Immortal Hulk, a copy went for $38, and it could have just been somebody who mistakenly listed it too low with a buy it now, or it could have been somebody who just saw like that there were a lot of copies out there and put it out with a buy now, or it could have been somebody who started an auction really low. People like eBay is so seldom auctions now in this book space. I think there's plenty of unique things on eBay who still go for auctions, guitars, scuba gear. I think there's plenty of things at auction, but I think with books, it's really turned into a buy it now. Now for this Hulk book, let's just go and take a look at where that 38 placed and what it generally is going for. You can get it undercover all of the time. I'm not saying that you have to go get it right now. I had my problems with this run, but if you're thinking that you might want this book, now is the time to buy this book. With no reprint announced and with copies starting to dry up, if you see it for the $75 or $80 range, which it clearly frequently sells for. In fact, I would put in a look at how many of it has sold, by the way. I mean, this has got to be one of the most popular omnibuses to sell on eBay right now. I think I would personally set an alert for like $70 and I would just let it ride and I would just pick it up. Now, this is one where the search string actually does make a difference because Panini put out, which is not the Sandwich, is Marvel's UK printing partner, put out a copy of this in paperback, and they do sometimes call their paperbacks omnibuses. So if I were to take out paperback softcover Panini, those are negative keywords, you would get all of those in the search. Also, some people, like, I try to think when I'm searching for something on eBay, is there some other thing that people are going to call it, even though the title is Immortal Hulk? And you can't just put Hulk, because then you'll get every Hulk omnibus. But I thought Hulk by Ewing, maybe. So sometimes, you know, because those books that are like kind of the obscure version of the title, they're the ones that tend to sell for cheap. Like somebody who doesn't really understand how eBay works from the selling side is like, oh, this is just Hulk by eBay, and they're not thinking in terms of keywords. And sometimes the best deals that you can get, you can scoop up one that is like just keyworded badly. So let's see what went for the lowest price. Was it keyworded badly? No, it said the Immortal Hulk Omnibus, but it was pre-owned, so maybe it wasn't in great shape. But look, this one was brand new. Immortal Hulk Omnibus, the Ewing Wade Zub Bennett, has the ISBN that they put all the keywords they could have put, but Awesome Books USA sells things relatively discounted, and it was a buy it now, so they were selling it for that. So it's clear that within this period, the cheapest ones were not like badly keyworded. They just had a low buy it now. So I think, honestly, you might want to set your alert lower than $70. Maybe set it for $50, because it seems like the book can be had for $50. Thank you for stopping by, Omnibus Cafe. I think I only have one or two left. I know, in fact, yeah, okay. Is this the newest one? I think this might be the newest one. So Micronauts. Now we know some information about Micronauts, which is that Marvel pushed out a lot of it because they knew they wouldn't have the chance to reprint it, which is silly to do if you know you're not going to hang on to the stock. Like, don't print a ton and be like, I'm printing a ton, but it's got to be sold in a month or else I'm going to liquidate it. That's like me saying, I made so much dinner, we have so much leftovers, and they're going to spoil tomorrow because I'm leaving them out on the counter. It's shrimp, by the way. Like, no, man. If there's only 4 people over for dinner, do not make enough shrimp for 20 people. The shrimp will spoil. So Micronauts is, or have a plan to be like, ooh, I'm gonna like do all the shrimp and then we're gonna freeze it. We're gonna flash freeze it and then it's gonna be microwavable. Although I wouldn't microwave frozen shrimp necessarily, but you got my point. It's like make a plan for the shrimp to last. Marvel had no shrimp lasting plan for the Micronauts. On the other side, we have a book, Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. I mean, Daredevil's on TV right now. Chip Zdarsky is writing the Marvel event right now. This is as non-niche as you can get. There are all eyes on this book. It's probably the most talked about book other than maybe Daredevil by Soul, which just had so much in common with the show. Whereas Micronauts, I mean, it was an unsuccessful toy line, so you had to be there. Even though they purposely put the guy that looks like Darth Vader on the cover just in the chances that you might think it had to do with Star Wars, they are really trying to sell this book to an audience of none. I mean, there's no very little, I won't say no. There's no modern nostalgia for the Micronauts book. So, knowing it was a fanatical book, I think we know it's going to come in low. But how low do you want to go? Because there's always those outlier copies that sell for a little bit more. On the other side, Daredevil, how high do you want to go? Here we go. Micronauts has topped out as $60. Richard B saying surprise tie at $50 each. Did somebody add more than 50, but less than 60? I don't think anybody does for Micronauts. So Richard B gets it, but you didn't get the Daredevil book. I expected the Daredevil book to be much higher. Ryan Williams saying is both in stock some places, but I wanted to pick things that are relatively recent to each other. And so it's kind of interesting to see that the Daredevil book, Edwin Billy and Nailing It on the Nose with 120, even though it's still in stock places, people are still paying more than cover on eBay because not everybody is in on this stuff like we are. You see the Daredevil show, you go and look for Daredevil book on eBay, you see this book with this gorgeous, gorgeous cover, and maybe you heard about Chip Zdarsky writing Batman or something, and all of a sudden you're buying it for $220 when it maybe is still available on the direct market. That is the last slide in our presentation here. So I want to go through these 20 books one more time here and just kind of talk about, do I think I was wrong that any of them were niche? Devil Dinosaur, I think, is niche no matter how you cut it. It's a super short run. Now I think in a world where he's in Marvel Rivals, I think even though there was a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur TV show, Marvel Rivals is the thing that's going to push it over the top. I think in this world, there's a chance that this being reissued could be not as niche, but I still think because it's the Kirby material and it's like the ancient version of Devil Dinosaur and he's just in prehistoric times, I just don't ever see that even being a 3 in the scale of 1 to 5 of nicheness. I think a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur book would probably sell like freaking crazy right now if they did the right printing amount because of Marvel Rivals. So I think that book, I stand by it being niche. Amazing Fantasy, I was shocked to discover it had a reprint. Look, I don't think there's anything more niche in Marvel than these anthology books, because even when they had big creators on them, aside from randomly Groot being in one of them, they're just not books that are well known for their material. DC's anthology books are much more well known for the material, so I stick with saying that Amazing Fantasy was a niche book. Women of Marvel absolutely is niche. Any book that's an anniversary book and a random collection material book to me is niche, unless it's like something that people would actually ask for. Like if it's, I'm trying to think of an example. I think if it was an artist that hadn't drawn a lot of Marvel, if it was like Mike Magnola's work at Marvel, maybe I would say that it still feels pretty niche though, because it's like an artist specific book. I can't think of a single anniversary style book or like greatest hitsy book that feels like it could escape the niche label. 75th anniversary, great example. Although I will say, given how pretty this is a great gift. If you have somebody in your life that you're looking for like a birthday or Christmas gift or whatever, graduation gift, that's like into the idea of comics, and they're aware that it started Silver Age and they're just curious about all sorts of Marvel comics, for $50, and we saw how cheaply you could get this. Oh, the internet went out for a second. For somebody unlike us freaks who have like shelves upon shelves filled with this stuff, I think if you're giving, like, I remember what it was like to have one cool book on my shelf. If you're giving this to like a 17-year-old who like loves the MCU and has never read a comic book, I really think that would be a really cool gift. Yeah, apparently the internet, I'm like plugged into the hard line of the internet, so I don't know how much better I can do. Can y'all hear me right now? Can you hear my words right now? Right now, can you hear my words? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we should turn down the video quality just as a precaution. Camera. Let's go down to just normal high definition. Probably the makeup's not going to look any better. Okay, all good now. So let's just continue. This 1990s book, that's always going to be niche to me. Again, cool potential gift for somebody in your life who really loved comics in the 90s, but I just think I would rather give them a Marvel Unlimited subscription. I think the difference is that for this person who's just comics curious, this is a fun curated collection, and to them it might be like a keepsake, like that they might like be like, wow, I have this really cool book, because they don't know omnibuses are a thing, right? I think for somebody who was into comics in the 90s, they know their way around. Just send them to Marvel Unlimited. They're just, they're an old hag at this point. They know what they're doing. Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, I maintain that this is niche, even because of Shang-Chi and Iron Fist, because it's not a book of comic books. And I think people might buy it by mistake, but I think to put out, anytime Marvel puts out a book of articles, to me, by definition, that's just niche, and that's just where I am. Brian Bendis Crime Noir, part of me wants to take this out of the niche category and say that it's like maybe a 3 out of 5. But again, it's like comic books that people don't even know existed, and they weren't originally published by Marvel. So I still think that's at least like a 2. I think it's not totally obscure because it's Bendis' name on it. But even people who know that Bendis does superhero, a lot of them don't know that he had ever done crime. Hellstorm by Ryan Ellis, that's as niche gets. It's niche. It's the niche of the niche. It's the niche's niche. Because it's your favorite niche's favorite niche. Because who even wants an omnibus of Hellstorm? I mean, the Hellstorm TV show is out, and they didn't take the opportunity to just do all of Hellstorm all the way from the beginning up until here. Like, there's not a lot of material. I just think it's absolutely absurd that book ever came out. I think all of the Golden Age books at Marvel are niche, except for Captain America. I think Captain America, we've established that I think it's crazy that Marvel can't sell them, because DC can sell Wonder Woman. Why can't Marvel sell Captain America? It's the Captain America. It's not a different character. It's Steve Rogers. So for me, the Human Torch book, always going to be niche. Always going to be niche. Same for Golden Age Simon and Kirby, especially because it has some Captain America in it, but like not a sequential amount of Captain America. That is always going to be niche-y here for me. Logan Wayne's saying, do I think there's an Omar factor in obscure books? Most of these he never announced or he did an interview of. So no, Omar's announced everything from a certain point, right? Since like 2019 or 2020. to a certain point, always announce them. But I think that it's kind of levels the playing field. Like Omar announces every Marvel Omnibus. So like the community that is on YouTube has had every chance to see them. So certainly the bigger books have more of an awareness because people are out there saying that there's an omnibus. You have to think not every comic book fan is like as deep into the omnibus game as we are. So I've seen people all the time on Discords, Reddits, message boards being like, oh, I wish there was an omnibus of, and then they name something that like we all know there's an omnibus of that. They're like, I wish there was an omnibus of Onslaught, and we're like, yeah, it's been reprinted. It exists for sure. But like people who are not deep into this game don't know that. Adventures into Fear, to me, that is niche because it's like I still can't believe they did an omnibus of it. Golden Age Marvel, which the chances are you will see me have that in a haul in the next year if I find one cheap enough that I can get shipped to New Zealand, because I do really want it. Even if there's never going to be a volume 3, I feel like I should have volume 1 and 2. Plus I fuck with that cover. But I think, again, any Golden Age book from Marvel that doesn't have Captain America is going to be niche. Marvel Classic Comics, niche. Khazar the Savage, I just think that run is just too unknown. I think if it had been his Silver Age material and it had been Marvel Masterworks material, I would have given it a 3 out of 5. But like it's just so obscure. It's not even by a creator that is like a super name brand known creator to today's audience. So that one's still niche. All of these yearbooks are niche to me. There's no way you can convince me that they're not. I think their sale price just goes to prove that. Kirby War and Romance. Look, Kirby is a master of the form, but even a book that's like the best of Kirby doing superheroes, it's going to be a pretty niche book because all that stuff's been collected already. Knights of Pendragon is niche, and this is coming from somebody who loves it and owns it all in singles and owns the omnibus, because maybe if they had said Captain Britain before Excalibur, Captain Britain X-Men, Captain Britain M- before Excalibur, Knights of Pendragon, then maybe I would give it a 2 out of 5, but that is a niche book. Another yearbook that's niche to me. Marvel Age is a book that's not actual comic books, it's articles. That is niche to me. Micronauts is niche because nobody knows what the hell it is, and that was our list. So I stand by these, even though some of them, I think what we've proven on this little game show is that just because a book is a niche book and a slightly more obscure book doesn't always mean it sells for less, because there's a supply and demand aspect of that going on, and you might be surprised for how much things sell for. So this was a fun, different kind of stream. I would love to hear in the comments after, for those of you who are watching this after the live, because the people that were on the live had a great time, right? Guessing and everything. But does this have rewatch quality? Do you want me to do more game show things like this? Could I make it more fun for you to guess at home and give you more time, or like a countdown or something? Or did you like more that I was talking about, like how to structure your eBay searches? I do want to show one more eBay search that maybe is a little bit more illustrative of how this actually works. So let's look at, I want to look at the Hulk by Pad. I think that's a good eBay search to look at. So this really goes to show like how you can really structure an eBay search, and it's not even all going to fit here. So we know it's going to say Hulk, right? So you don't have to put Hulk in parentheses or and it or anything. But then there's a lot of ways that people might say Peter David. In the title of the book, it's Hulk by Peter David. That's what it says on the cover. But people in comics sometimes call him Peter A. David. Some might just say Hulk by David. Some people might say Hulk by Pad, because everybody within comics knows it as Pad. Now, almost all of these were scrolling down in the completed say Peter David. But again, you don't want to miss out on somebody who listed it cheap with the wrong name on it. So in this particular completed search, none of them, we wouldn't have missed any of them by having these other spellings, but I don't like to leave it to chance. The same thing with all of the versions of the volume number. Technically, eBay will search for variations, because I didn't put a period after my volume and they still brought back volume 2 because I didn't put it in quote marks. So it wasn't an exact match. And this did have the word vol and the word 2 in it, but I just don't like to take chances. So you will just see me always detail out an eBay search in that way. So I'm so happy so many of you stuck around for this game show. Should we have a game show once a month? Should this go into the regular monthly rotation in the same way that X-Men is? I mean, do I have enough time to do that? Is another question. But I did like that it was only like 20 questions, because it wasn't one of my like typical 60 slide presentations. I think that's a very reasonable amount of show. So to recap, if you're in the comments afterwards, was this fun to play along at home? Do you have other things you wished I focused on? Do you think should have I had more guessing game show aspects? Should I focused more on the eBay searches and things like that? You tell me. And do you want to see more kind of guessing game show types of things in the future? If you're going to be here next week, you're going to want to remember it's going to start an hour earlier than normal next week. And I know a lot of you are like, I didn't get the notification, and you're not going to want to miss this one, because next week, live on the air, we are going to have me with somebody who's just about as far from me as you can get on Earth, which is One Wheelchair X from the UK. And we are going to rank every significant Marvel X-Men story or event ever. We are ranking 100, and we have to agree, or at least average our ranks. So that could possibly go for 12 hours. I mean, it could be forever. Or we might lightning fast, right? It might be good, bad, good, bad. Pew, pew, pew. So this is the first time I've ever had a guest on the channel for a live. We used to do This Week in X. That was a pre-record. So lots of things could go wrong, but lots of things could go very right. So please, please, please show up and support One Wheelchair X and I next week. If you haven't already, please subscribe to his channel. If you're asking me for my X-Men opinions, I am saying I defer to his X-Men opinions. So you should go and subscribe to his channel and see his X-Men opinions. Also, if you have not voted yet on the DC Tiger Eyes Most Wanted Omnibus poll, it closes in less than 3 hours. You can get your top 10 votes in. We're not announcing it right away just because of where the Memorial Day weekend fell. It's actually going to be like 12 days or something until we announce the results. So you're just going to have to sit and stew. I will tell you that I looked at the vote totals today, and there are 5 books within less than one first place vote of being in the top 60. And wouldn't you hate it if you forgot to vote, and then at the end of the stream I told you that your favorite book missed by less than 1 vote? You would just hate yourself forever. So please be sure to go and vote for that. The link is available. I don't know, just type Tiger Eyes 3rd Annual into Google search or something. I don't know. There's a link. I'm sure you can find it. And that's it for me this week. So for those of you who are on the stream live, now's the time that you go down to the description and you look at the description and you copy the URL, because as soon as I close the stream, the URL for the after party is going to go away. Okay. While you're out there, fam, make sure you're respecting people in the world. And, you know, it's not just about respect. It's about compassion. It's one thing to say, yeah, I respect you as a Black person, and I understand you have a different cultural context than me, and you have systemic biases against you. But do you have compassion for their different frame of reference and their systemic biases? When somebody is trans and you're like, being trans is fine, which is great, and we love to start with being trans is fine. Being trans is more than fine. It's called being a human being. But do you have compassion? Like, damn, their life is hard. Do you have compassion for somebody who is disabled and needs, you know, special access to an event? Last time you were at a concert, last time you were at a supermarket, did you like think about like, wow, it would be really hard to navigate this space if I was differently abled than my current body is? As somebody who had a brief disability this year, I had to think a lot about that, and I discovered I didn't have as much compassion already as I thought I did. So my challenge for all of you comic fans this week is to go out into the world and challenge yourself to not only have understanding and acceptance of people, but to be compassionate about them, because everybody deserves people not only respecting them, but like really giving a shit about their problems. And so that's what I try to do. And I'm never perfect and I'm never right. Just because I'm here saying these things doesn't mean I get it right every time. But all we can all do is to try to be a little bit better 1 week at a time, and then report back next week and see how it went. So until I see you, whether that's in 2 minutes in the after party or next week talking about every X-Men event ever, I have been Krisis, and I would urge you, please, in the next 2 minutes or 7 days, don't have a crisis. Unless, of course, it's me.